Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, bringing you a preview to the Europa League second leg versus Zagreb. Of course, we're 2-0 up with special guests. But before I introduce a special guest, I want to wish everyone a massive happy St. Patrick's Day. And if you want to buy me a pint, make sure you get your super chats in and buy me a pint for this Paddy's Day. But I'm going to introduce you to special guests. We have Mr. Cracknell. How are you keeping?
Berokti na fila poricot, yeah? You like that?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Look, it's better than what I can speak. You're making a show of me anyway, 100%. And I'm sure everyone else is enjoying it. Matty Hayes, how are you keeping, Matt?
I'm all good, David. Thanks as always for having me on.
No problem at all. And Stelios, how are you keeping?
I'm good, thanks. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all the Irish out there and yourself, David.
Thank you so much. So look, lads, we'll get into it. So, of course, it's the Europa League second leg. We're away at the Maximir Stadium. It's a 5:55 p.m. kickoff. You can watch the game on BT Sports, or you can get over to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blogs and follow us on the watch along from there. Matty, what time are we kicking off tomorrow?
The watch along is starting at 4:40 London time, starting with, of course, the lineup reaction very shortly after that. Big build up, members call and show, the whole shebang as we always do. And then, of course, the game kicking off at 5 to 6.
100%. There you have it, guys. So a bit of team news, of course. Son is out because of his injury. Højbjerg is out because he is suspended. Lo Celso is back, but according to Jose, he doesn't think he's going to see 90 minutes. And as well, of course, Roden is ineligible to play. He's not registered in the Europa League squad, so he can't play. But Mr. Cracknell, with ndombele also looking like he needs a rest, no Højbjerg being suspended, Lo Celso only back from injury, who would you put in the middle tomorrow?
Well, it's looking like he's not got much choice in the matter, and he's going to have to go with Sissoko and Winks, isn't he? So that'll keep the social media man at Spurs busy when they announce that, won't it? It's I think that's what it's going to have to be. I don't know. I suppose you'd have taken a look at ndombele in training and see how he is. Maybe he can give him an hour with Sissoko coming on, but I definitely think Winks will be a starter. So, it's down to the bare bones, as an ex-manager of ours used to say many years ago, come from my neck of the woods in East London. And, I don't think I think he's got options choice in the matter. So I would not be at all surprised to see Sissoko and Winks starting, or ndombele for an hour and then Sissoko. So, there you go. But we should have the job done. They really didn't offer us much at all. I was expecting a lot more from them than I actually, and it looked like an early rounds game, to be honest. I was expecting them to be a lot technically better, but I thought we actually really controlled that game well. So let's see. And they've had a really funny week. Their managers like facing Jow and the sack and all sorts. So, but I don't know. Wouldn't it be very Spurs to have the team managed from prison and then they end up beating us? I mean, that's like, you couldn't get more Spurs, could you?
Oh, stop. It sounds like a bad episode of Prison Break, to be honest with you. But look, before I give the next question to Stelios, let's welcome a few people of the Harris Army to the building. We have Kenneth from Kenneth Tottenham Hotspur. We have Island Life. We have Dan Davenport. We have Holly Agambar. We have Brian Island from Tottenham away. We have Viat Hall. We have Paul Brown. We have Pete from the Lane. We have Sean Mitchell. We have the whole crew in here. Big up, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stelios, look, Jose Mourinho did say that Lo Celso, look, there's not 90 minutes in his legs. But do you think that maybe he could probably slot in beside Sissoko maybe for maybe 60, 65 minutes and bring on Weeks? And also, with Harry Kane, look, we all know Harry Kane has a knock. Is it a risk playing him? Because Jose did say that he probably will play.
Yeah, so am I right in saying in the first leg when we won 2-0, it was Winks and Sissoko that started? I think they started, didn't they? Both of those. So why not just start them again? It worked. It wasn't an issue. Yeah. So for me, Højbjerg being injured isn't a problem. He only came on for like 10, 15 minutes. It was a bit of a pointless substitution anyway in the first leg. So for me, I'd just keep Winks and Sissoko. Sonny being injured, I actually think it's a blessing in disguise because he needs a rest, and I'd rather he comes back strong for the last month if we're in the semi-final, final of the Europa Cup, and we've got the Carabao Cup final in that last month. So I don't mind that. Lamela can play because he's suspended for the next Premier League game. So just let Lamela play, and he's playing very well. Lo Celso, I wouldn't start him. I think it's always a risk when you bring a player back from injury and you start them off, especially against this team. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, but when we played Dinamo Zagreb, that's one of the most physical battles I've seen us get into this season against Stelios. They were kicking us, chopping away at us. The referee gave us no protection. Is that a game you want to bring an injured player back into? I'm not
20,000
sure.
10,000 it was in the previous leg.
Exactly. So that's not the kind of game I'd like to see Lo Celso starting. With Harry Kane, it's always a risk starting Harry Kane. The guy's got a history of being injured for 1 month, 2 months every year. So I personally would like to see Vinicius start for the simple fact he is the top scorer in the Europa Cup. Play him, but play to his strengths. Get the ball to his feet into the box. Don't expect him to play this quarterback role or drop deep like Harry Kane because he's not that kind of player. We made the same mistake with Soldado when we signed him. He's a box player and we didn't put balls into the box. So I'd start Vinny, but play to the guy's strengths.
Yeah,
Can I just...
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, someone want to come in there?
I was quickly going to say, on the point of Højbjerg getting his yellow card, I 100% believe Jose Mourinho brought Højbjerg on the last 10-15 minutes of that game and said, get yourself booked, be banned for the next leg, and have a clean slate going into the last 8 of the competition. I fully believe that.
Yeah, honestly,
Matty,
do you know, that's a fair point.
Can I say something to that? I thought the same thing, but then someone told me that once you get to the last 8, everyone starts on a clean slate. They wipe out all the previous bookings.
Oh,
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that either because I made the same point on the previous pod and someone corrected me. So that's my chance to correct you.
And Mourinho's got form for that as well, isn't he? I remember him doing that a couple of times with Real Madrid players, Chelsea players. One particular Real Madrid game, I think he ended up with 4 people getting booked so that they could be wiped. And I mean, it was nonsense challenges. You could just tell they were there to get booked. So he does know that game quite well, playing that game. So it wouldn't put it past him at all.
No, 100%. But look, Matt, I love the optimism. And to be honest with you, until Stelios said what he did, I would have agreed with you. I just want to welcome Premier Hotspur TV to the channel memberships. Big up Premier Hotspur. Lads, the link for the channel memberships are in the description below. I also want to give a shout out to fellow channel members, Joe Grimes, Wayne Winter, Brian Daigle, THFC Rants, which is Will Stewart, Matthew Collins, Wayne Bonner, Elliot Walsh, Jordo Stevens, Spartan 7 Gaming, Adam Fox, Arthur Everett, and of course, Premier Hotspur TV. Welcome to the Harris Army. Big up. I really do appreciate it. And we have welcome Will to the stream as well. Big up, Will. And everyone that's tuning in, look, make sure you get your super chats in for the panel, for the guests. I will also try and get your comments up on screen. And also, it's Paddy's Day. Why not buy an Irishman a pint? What better gift can you give a man on Paddy's Day, an Irishman? But, Matty, look, I'm going to ask you this because I know you're Dele Alli's biggest fan. For me, look, I think he needs to play tomorrow, especially because he is going to play the Villa game with Lamela out suspended and Son's injury. For me, he will play. Do you think we might see Dele start tomorrow or come off the bench? And the reason why I say come off the bench is because it could possibly be Bergwijn, Lucas, and Lamela for their pace and everything else. So, do you think Dele Alli will start to come off the bench?
It's a really tough decision. I think it just comes back to the fact that it's near impossible to predict a Jose 11 at this stage. I'm really surprised by how Steven Bergwijn has been essentially frozen out in recent weeks. I think, if you were going to bring him in for a game, I think this one tomorrow will be the ideal one because, like we said, with Harry Kane injured, more than likely starting this game, I would think 1 goal and all of a sudden Dinamo Zagreb need 4. It's a very finely, it's a game that can very easily turn in our favour. I think Lamela starts this game for definite because he's not going to play on Sunday. He's suspended. So all of a sudden there's a week and a half before his next Spurs game. So we don't run the risk. If he picks up a little knock, he'll probably be okay by then. It's not running the risk of him being tired playing on Sunday or anything. And as well, I think he is perfectly suited to this game. We know, as Stelios said, that Dinamo Zagreb are going to be extremely physical in this one. And what other player would we want on the pitch to deal with that than Eric Lamela, who can more than definitely give as good as he can get. So I think all of a sudden, one of those places in that team is gone. I think one of Lucas or Bergwijn probably does need to start for, as you said, the pace and the counter. And Look, Dele Alli, I'm not entirely sure he'll play this game against Villa on Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised if Jose did kind of revert to that 4-3-3 and play a bit more pragmatically against Aston Villa, because we've struggled against teams higher up the table. Villa have done pretty well against them this season. Of course, done the double over Arsenal, which is absolutely hilarious. But look, I am a massive fan of Dele Alli. There's no hiding that. I've never hidden that. And I think he maybe can be that creative spark that we do need with Son potentially missing this game. We're all fully aware that when Son isn't on the pitch, a lot of the creativity that Spurs have is gone. And it's not just Sunday we saw that. It's a lot of those games where he threw away those 1-0 leads with him not being there. His kind of link up with Harry Kane is gone. So maybe Ali coming in there on Sunday and offering that different kind of link up like he did so often in his early time at Spurs, being that number 10, making those late runs in behind Harry Kane. He could be really important for us in that game against Villa. And for that reason, I wouldn't start him in this game. Just give him that bit of a rest, because he hasn't had much game time lately, having the injury throughout January when he was just trying to secure a deal to Paris. I think starting him in this one will be a bit of a risk, as well, as we mentioned, with the physicality and the vigor of that Dinamo Zagreb team. Yeah,
100%. 100%. I agree with you. And we have THFC Rance Will Stewart. He says, got to run. Training in 30 minutes. Will be here till then. Really appreciate your commitment to the Harris Army, Will. I really do appreciate it. We have Holly here. She reckons that Stevie should play. We have Premier Hotspur TVs. He says Dele to start and Bergwijn to start. Start outlet for me, guys. We have John Fitzpatrick tuning in from Australia. Big up, John. Yeah, Holly reckons she would love to see Stevie play tomorrow. Sean Mitchell, he says he think we should rest Kane, need him for the next round, and Vinny has great form in Europe, so he's agreeing with you there, Stelios. No, look, that's a fair shout. That is a fair shout. But look, Mr. Cracknell, what way should we approach this game tomorrow? It's a very tricky situation going into an away leg, 2-0 up. Should we sit back, or should we come out and try and get the job done in the first half, or should we sit back and then try and catch them on the counter and keep it tight? Bear in mind that anytime we've won a first leg in our last 3 Europa League knockout rounds, we have progressed.
Straight out, a goal, they then have to score 4 goals. They've got to score 4 goals. Yeah. If we get straight out of the blocks, get the goal, first 10 minutes, it's job done. That is job done, barring an absolute disaster. I mean, you do have to caveat this because it is Tottenham we're talking about here. But we get that first goal, then their heads are going to drop, or they are actually going to come at us, which just plays right into our hands, and then we just counter against them. So I think a good, fast, early start, an early goal. Nice Vinny goal right from the off, and that's it. That's we're cigar on them from now. So just sit back, just counter them after that. So no point trying to low block them, or they didn't seem interested. So straight out the blocks for me tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. I fully agree with you. I'd be the same. I'd show no fear, because at the end of the day, lads, let's be honest. They didn't show anything at White Hart Lane. It could have been a case that maybe they were looking to get out there with as little damage as possible and take us at home. They probably would fancy themselves at home, because they have only lost one. I think it's in 16 European games. They've only lost 1 game at home, which is a good record. So I think that could be the case. But look, we ended up having, double the shots on target, more possession. We completely dominated the game. Like I was saying, they gave away 20 fouls. We only gave away 10. Even corners we had double. It was completely all Tottenham. So I think we shouldn't go out here and show them any respect. But still, surely what's gone on with their manager, because I know you sent me a link to it, you're on it straight away. Surely what happens with the manager plays into our hands as well.
Well, it should do, because it destabilises their dynamic. The person that's telling them what to do sets them up, picks the squad, does some of the training. He's not there anymore. But we are Tottenham. And losing that North London derby, you don't know what kind of a response we're going to now give. If we go by previous big games we've lost, the one at Anfield, the game against City, the West Ham 3-3, our reaction after hasn't been good. So that's something that, will it work against us, or can we bounce back because it's a Europa Cup game, supposedly a bit easier? For me, I agree with Mr. Cracknell. Is it okay to call you Crackers?
Call me Crackers, yeah.
Is that all right? Okay.
That's more than fine.
So I agree with Crackers. get the one goal and it's over. So we should go out on the front foot, get that early goal. The only thing that will possibly worry me is if they get the early goal, because now we begin to wobble. Now we're under pressure to get that goal, and that's the only thing that could destabilise us. But let's be honest, I think the job's done. They can't score any more away goals. We can score as many away goals as we, try to get by being on the front foot. For me, I'll put my neck out on the line and say we're in the last 8. Famous last words, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you. I already think we have one foot in the quarterfinal already, to be honest with you. I think we're already in the draw. But Matty, look, Dynamo, I do think we are going to see a different Dynamo team tomorrow. Honestly, I know they have a new manager in, but if he's done his homework, he would be chomping at the bit to go at us from the first minute tomorrow, make it a miserable, hard first half an hour and test our mentality and our bottle, surely.
Absolutely. It's always been the case with these the clubs from the likes of Croatia, Serbia and all that, where we go to their ground and it's a very, very different situation. We found that with Red Star Belgrade in the Champions League. The last time we were there was that last season? Seems like a long time ago. And look, I know them having fans in the stadium is of course a very, very different situation. It is that the intense, the almost scary atmosphere coming from the stands, which will affect the mentality both of the home players and having that fan base behind them, and also the away players. That kind of intimidation is of course very, very, very tough to deal with. And looking at that Dinamo Zagreb team, the two players that we thought were going to hurt us in that first leg who didn't were Mislav Orsic and Bruno Petkovic. Very, very talented players who were a bit kind of pragmatic, I suppose, in the way they approached us. And I was really interested looking at how Mislav Orsic played in that first game. He really, really hugged that left touchline, and he was waiting for that moment. He was waiting for that perfect opportunity to make that run, to maybe try and get in behind the fullback, and it never really came for him. But you'd have to imagine in the second leg now, the way Zagreb do have to go out and chase the game, he's going to be getting heavily involved in this one. And once Orsic is involved, Petkovic gets involved in as well. And the striker had 2 half chances in that first leg, and he snapped at one of them, put it wide, and the other one, Reece made a somewhat decent save. Yeah. But it's going to be a very different situation. If Guardiola's back and left back for them as well, that duo down that left-hand side could be almost impossible for Spurs to deal with. And that's when all of a sudden our right-back selection becomes very important. I don't think it's going to be Matt Doherty, and I'm very glad it's not going to be him. I think it will be either Serge Aurier, and David, we spoke a while ago about maybe whether or not it would be Jaffa Tanganga. I do think it will be Aurier, but whoever's on that right-hand side will need to track back a lot. And that's why I haven't really mentioned Bale for this game, because look, he got a lot of criticism on Sunday for not being that man to track back. I don't think he should be. I think he is more of a player for the attack and threat. And when we do need the defensive acumen coming from that right-hand side, then it's a Bergwijn or it's a Lucas that you want in that position. But it's going to be a very different approach from Zagreb. They are going to come out and try and get this game. And I think they will show the quality that I personally expected to see from them in that first leg. I think we will see that a little bit more. But look, as Mr. Cracknell said, 1 goal and it's game over.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Look, if we get 1, I cannot see them scoring 4, which is ultimately what they need. It is a very, very tough ask. They have a very poor record against English opposition throughout their years in European competition. The only team, of course, they did beat out of England is Arsenal back in 2015, believe it or not, which is great. So we can have that little laugh now that the North London Derby is behind us. But Crackers, one thing I want to ask is the Tanganga situation. Like, what is going on there? Like, do you think it's a case of maybe the serious back injury he had, it's going to take him a lot longer to recover than what first thought? Do you think it's a case of maybe Mourinho hiding him away from the leaky defence we have to not kind of damage his career, put him under the spotlight so early? What do you make of the situation that's going on with Tanganga? Because surely with the mistakes that he's made so far, that other defenders have made so far, that there has been a shout for him to maybe get more game time.
Yeah, it's difficult with youngsters. You don't want to throw them in too much. I think you have to sort of dip them in, dip them out a little bit, and build their confidence. So I would probably think that's what's happening with Tanganga. And like you say, if you're putting him into a back 4 where it's leaking and it's under pressure, and there's a couple of mistakes which do come with youngsters. That's just part and parcel. It could end up knocking their confidence. With Tanganga, though, he seems like a very mature lad when I've seen him interviewed. Very, very grounded, very solid. So I don't think there's a mentality problem there with him at all. But I just think it is a case of with youngsters, you pick your times when you put them in, take them out. a back injury as well. So yeah, it's steady as she goes. I think so. I don't know. Maybe with Jose, there's always that little bit of malevolence as well that you feel with him, and maybe just continually showing the board what his first choice defenders are like might sort of concentrate minds to dip into the kitty and start buying some players. So I don't know. Perhaps that's another reason why he doesn't put them in. But you know, it's the same with Rodon. I know he's ineligible for tomorrow night, but we've not seen too much of him either. And again, I've been very impressed when he's come in. So, but defense is one of those very, very tricky positions, isn't it? The closer you get back in positions to the goal, the more pressure it is on young shoulders. When you've got a young striker, you know, a slice shot just means it's not a goal for you, like, you know, and you go, okay, he's a youngster. Like when Kane first came in, you know, it was you give him a bit of time. When it's a defender, and even more as a goalkeeper, you make these mistakes, it's a goal conceded. So I think the potential for you to be exposed and have your confidence knocked is greater in a defender than a forward, if that makes sense, when the mistakes do come when you're learning. So steady as she goes, I said, and dip him in and out for games. One for the future.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. And everything about this guy, I've made no secret about. I think screams Ledley King. I think he definitely has that potential. Everyone that's watching, put in the chat, let me know your thoughts on Tanganga, and also get in the super chats and let me know your thoughts. Stelios, you're a coach. From a coach's point of view, what do you think could be the issue with Tanganga's game time? As a coach, do you think the likes of that serious back injury has that it does maybe take longer to get back from than what everyone kind of thinks?
Yeah, so that's an impossible question to ask unless you're actually doing the coaching and you're inside the club and you're dealing with the medical team and you see how the player trains during the week. Only Jose Sacramento can make that decision. And in most cases, the medical team will override the management and say, look, he's not playing. So I personally, what I think is going on with Tanganga, Rodon, I don't understand. I was very angry when Rodon never got selected for the Europa Cup squad. I think that's a cardinal sin. What's the point? He's clearly done well for us. We spent money on him. This nonsense of, I wanted to, be kind to the players that got us to this stage. And that's just, you're Jose Mourinho, you're a winner. I don't buy that for 1 second, right? There's something clearly there doesn't add up. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's what Crackers just said. You know, Jose's trying to send a message to the board. He's got a history of doing that. But with Tanganga, it all comes down to, and this is the bit I don't understand, what does the club want? When Pochettino came into Tottenham, there was clearly some kind of project or long-term plan that they were trying to work towards. Jose's come in, but he's been given 3.5 years. So is he, 1, here to get trophies straight away? Is he, 2, here to build something over a 3-year period? Or is he here, number 3, to win trophies, but he can do it at any stage as long as it's in that 3-year period? I've got no idea. So until we know why Jose has really been brought in, then I can tell you why Tanganga isn't playing. Because if your job is to get top 4, you're not going to risk the kids, because that's you're risking getting top 4, and you're risking your job as well if you don't get that top 4. And you're not going to put your job, your neck on the line with a player like Tanganga when you've got an experienced pro that you think might be more reliable and doesn't need that learning curve a young player needs. So with Tanganga, it's a difficult one. I think as fans, because the right-back position has been pretty crap, let's be honest, we want to see Tanganga have a go. And I don't see why Tanganga can't even play centre-back. Why can't we give him a go there when we've got
where
problems,
I think his long-term position is, to be honest.
Yeah, we've given players like Dane Scarlett, we've given players like Jack Clark, we've given that player we got from Chelsea, the young lad that came on, I forgot his surname. He came on at right back.
Lavinier?
That's the one.
Lavinier.
Lavinier. He's a good player. why isn't Tanganga getting those chances as well in the Europa Cup a bit more? You know, so I can't really answer it unless I know what is the plan. What are Tottenham trying to do?
He seems like the longest short-term manager ever, doesn't he, Jose? It's like a long-term stopgap. But yeah, you're right. There's like it's hard to see what our DNA is now, isn't it? And the plan. You could see that with Pochettino. You could see where it was going, what he was trying to lead to. But with Jose, it just seems to be game to game and not quite sure. And I don't know. I think the club will probably want quite a few of those youngsters to come through that academy and make it into the first team, because they've spent a hell of a lot of money on that training facility and academy and everything. And that has to, you know, ENIC is a company that has a history of needing to balance books. Like the stadium. The stadium's now built to host concerts and everything else, you know. So it's like Arsenal at home one week, Lady Gaga the following Saturday, isn't it? You know, I think we could get a draw against her, by the way. And it's but
optimistic.
that academy needs to pay for itself. So I think really ENIC or the board will want some of those players to come through and potentially become 30, 40, 50 million pound assets and coming in. So
here's the funny thing about the academy. The funny thing about the academy is when you go there, they do in-house events for coaches and clubs and whatnot. And one thing they tell you is when they develop players, there's a percentage of players they develop with when they get to a certain age, they've already made a decision they're not going to play for Tottenham. But what they do is they prepare them to sell them to fund the academy. So the academy can actually become self-sustainable, a bit like the stadium and the main football team. My biggest, the question I have for you, Crackers, is if ENIC want these youngsters to come through and it's a big deal for them, then that's a project. That's a long-term. That's what Arteta's trying to do. That's what Lampard tried to do. Well, it was forced on Lampard because he couldn't buy players. He completely reverted back to type once he was given the money. But there are clubs out there that do depend on youngsters coming through because of the financials. If we're one of those clubs, does that mean Jose's here for the project? And this is my question. What has Jose been brought in to do? Because the fans are split. No, he's got to get trophies. He's got to win the triple this year. No. He's here to get us back in the top four. No. He's here for the long term. He's going to build. I don't think anyone knows why Jose's actually been brought in.
Interesting.
No, exactly.
Sorry,
yeah. It's. I think the thing is with Jose as well, like I said in the last show, Daniel Levy has staked so much of his reputation on Jose. You know, there was that 5-minute slot, in that Amazon documentary, and he said, this is the man we want. There's 3 world-class managers, 2 of which are at other clubs. And, I've got the one that I wanted. So, as I said before, if Jose fails, then everybody has to sort of go, well, you know, hang on, Daniel, you said this was your man and it hasn't worked. So
it's all on the owners if he fails. It's all on the owner. For me, my perspective, if Jose doesn't either get the Europa Cup, which is a European trophy of pedigree, which gets us Champions League as well, or if he doesn't win the Carabao Cup and top 4, then you have to now look at the board and say, what have you just done? Because Harry Kane and Son will be, I'm not saying they will leave because obviously someone's got to pay the big money for them, but they could easily hand in a transfer request and say, listen, we've been loyal, we've given everything, we want to win something in our careers. And what Spurs fan would begrudge that? Because Harry Kane has been one of the most loyal professional players we've had in a very, very long time, you know.
Well, interesting you brought all that up because I was only after doing a stream on Matty's channel at 7 o'clock there, preview. Everyone else, get over and check it out, by the way. You got a lot more out than a preview out of the 2 of us, I'll tell you that. Absolutely. But I was actually saying to Matt that maybe, because when Jose Mourinho walked into United, his sole intention was to create a dynasty like Sir Alex Ferguson. So maybe that could be his intention with Tottenham. And that Levy and him have spoken about that, and that they both agree it's going to take time, and that this could be ultimately what he's going to create at Tottenham, basically take us from the nearly men to over the line, and to try and build a dynasty. But we have a super chat here from Emily Dunn. She says, great show tonight. Loving the guests. Go on, you Spurs. Thank you so much, Emily. Everyone else, follow her lead and get your super chats in. But no, it could be that he is here for a project. We don't know that. I think it'd be very naive for Jose to walk into a job for a 2-3 year stint. I don't think that's his way of thinking when he comes in. I think every manager that walks in has to, okay, they need immediate success, but they do have to walk in with an element of future planning on trying to build a dynasty. And maybe that is what he's trying to do.
David, can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Can I add one thing, right? Yep. We had this discussion on our podcast on Tottenham Away on Monday night. And what came out of that was this. With Jose Mourinho, one thing he has to do is show progress. Okay. I personally don't mind if he's here for 3 years, 4 years, if there's progress. So under Harry Redknapp, he got us a taste of Champions League. He made us a bit competitive again. So there was progress before that died out. Pochettino made us a top 4 team. He made us finish above Arsenal every year. He made us beat big clubs, get Champions League final, Premier League title runs. You could see progress before that died out. So with Jose, he cannot finish 7th, 8th, and just a Carabao Cup or no trophies and mid-table. That is going backwards. So I'm all happy for him to stay here and for us to honour his contract, but he has to also show progress. It's a bit of give and take. Yeah, you were given a 3-year contract. We will honour it, but just show us some progress. And I don't think we can judge that till the end of the season, which is why I get a bit annoyed when Spurs fans say Jose out now. It's a bit too early to be saying that, I think.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. But look, we are going to get onto the board in about 5 minutes' time. I just want to put a question to Matt Hayes, bring Matty back in. I want to get your score predictions, and then I want to ask you for your opinions on a couple of topics I do want to talk about. But first of all, we have Jay Ashraf. He says, top show, guys. But Matty, Premier Hotspur TV, he says, we should have sent Roden and Tanganga out on loan in January for game time, in my opinion. What do you think?
It's a good point, to be honest, and I was a Stelios who said a while ago that leaving Roden out of the Europa League squad was a cardinal sin. I don't understand why Jose did that, because he said he did it out of respect for the players that got us out of the group stage in the first place. You don't like it's weird hearing that from a manager who has won so much in the past, because you don't win trophies by saying, oh, well, these guys got us this far, so let's allow them to do the rest. Now, I'm not saying Joe Roden would have been the difference for us between maybe a semi-final and then potentially going on and winning the trophy. Realistically, he probably wouldn't play a lot in the squad anyway. But he's an option there for a player that we brought in for this very reason. And he missed the deadline earlier on in the for the group stages because of the discrepancy between our valuation of the player and Swansea's. But we ultimately got that deal done. So look, fair enough, he wasn't in the group stage squad. But the fact we left him out for that. The knockout stage has really, really puzzled me from the get-go. With Tanganga, I don't know what the situation is there, because look, David, as we were saying a while ago, when he's played, he's been absolutely fantastic for us. From being thrown in for his debut against Liverpool, dealing with Sadio Mane better than I've seen many right backs deal with him before he became terrible this season. Playing against Manchester City, was it earlier this season or last season, whenever it was, and with a similar sort of return against very, very good footballers. Probably Man City team would probably have the best wingers combined in the world, because they how much they like to overload those wide areas. Even looking at that game against Wickham in the Championship, Fred Onyedinma, a player who's quick, he's pacey, he's skillful. Yes, he's not up at the level of Premier League footballers, but for Tanganga to step in there, having not played first team football for so long, and to deal with him so well, I think is something that did deserve recognition. Yet he was still whipped off at half time. If they weren't in Jose Mourinho's plans at all, then yes, he should have loaned them out. But I would ask the question if he was in there, but perhaps we just haven't had the chance to put him in there. And look, Richard, you said it a while ago about the mistakes in that team and all that. They're like David, we said it a while ago. There are two ways of looking at it. One, David, you said was you don't want to put these young centre backs within an experienced defence that is making a lot of mistakes, because these are the players that you want Tanganga and Roden to learn from. And if they go on a pitch and they can see Oliveira not able to mark a man at a corner, or Davinson Sanchez not knowing where to position himself, they're going to try and learn after a game regardless of what is happening, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. So you don't want that to happen. The point I was making is you don't want to put naive and inexperienced player in an already struggling defence, because as good as Tanganga is and as good as Joe Roden is, they're going to make mistakes. You look at Joe Roden's debut against Chelsea earlier in the season, he was probably one of our best players on the pitch that day, but in the last minute, one lapse in concentration, he let Olivier Giroud win on goal, and Giroud probably should have won that game. So it's those fine things as to whether or not these players, when is the right time to put them in that defence. Maybe Jose is waiting for that time, but it just hasn't come yet. But if you're looking at players that ideally we'd like to get out on loan, I think we nailed that one, getting Oliver Skip out on loan earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Harvey White going down to
fantastic.
Portsmouth. Portsmouth have had a bit of a poor turn in recent weeks. They've just sacked their manager, so maybe not the best time for Harvey White. But there's, we've played at Southend, at Cambridge, at Troy Parrott. I think a very, very clever move getting him away from Millwall and sending him down a league further to Ipswich. Those are probably the players that we should be focusing more on getting out on loan. With Tanganga and Roden, I think it's just a waiting game and finding the exact perfect moment to put them in that team. And I do think, regardless of the criticism Jose gets for his how he deals with young players, I think that's complete fabrication. Because if you look at the players that he's given a first chance in world football, look at Rafael Varane, broke through at Real Madrid under him. I think Scott McTominay got his first Man United start under Jose Mourinho. He does give players a chance, but he doesn't put him in too early. And that is a mistake a lot of managers make. And look, I love Mauricio Pochettino. I love him more than I love my own father. But you look at how he dealt with some players. You look at how he dealt with some players, and he called Marcus Edwards a mini Messi. And look at Marcus Edwards is now out in Vitoria de Guimarães because it was just that pressure was put on him a bit too soon. So it's about finding that fine balance, and I do think Jose has his head screwed on a bit more when it comes to that situation.
100%.
Can I ask Matty a question?
Yeah.
Matty, do you know how well Jack Clark and Sessegnon are doing on loan? Because I hear bits, but I haven't really followed them enough. I've just been too busy with other bits. But how are they doing on loan? Do you know? Yeah,
Ryan Sessegnon is actually doing really well. Hoffenheim are struggling. They're usually a team that will be in around the kind of European spots, but they're not doing quite as well this season. There's a period there for a month or two. They lost 2 games, and only 2 games they lost. Sessegnon actually wasn't in the team, so he's doing well. He's winning.
What position are they playing him?
Left wing back. So they play a 5 at the back. And I think Jose said this when he loaned him out. He's actually, that is the formation he wants to play at Spurs in the future. So he wants to get Sessegnon experience in that position. Okay. And as for Jack Clark, I've heard Stoke fans say they've never seen a better player play for their team at that level. I remember watching his debut against Watford a few months ago. They ended up losing the game 2-1, but Clark was absolutely fantastic. To be honest, Clark at that time, even though it was in the Championship, he was doing what I wanted Bale to do at Spurs. Because, Bale was being really reluctant in possession. He was like always passing that ball backwards. Clark, whenever he got that ball against Watford, playing up against a very good side, to be fair, he was taking a man on every time he got it. He was forward passing. He was taking shots from range. And he's gone from strength to strength there. He got an assist last week for Harry Sutter, actually scored his first ever goal for Stoke. He did have a moment where he gave away a penalty a few weeks ago, but it's the most blatant dive I've ever seen. One Mohamed Salah will be proud of. But they're doing quite well.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
No, they are.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. Just a couple of chats here. We have Iggy P. Tanganga is a better option at right back than both Aurier and Doherty. As for Roden, no idea what's happening there. All I know is that a proper defender that loves to defend. Look, with Roden, I think it's a tough one. You have to sit down and say, with the targets we were chasing, Jose Mourinho wanted a proven world-class centre-back. He already foreseen the problems and tried to go about in the transfer market. Then they bring in Joe Roden, the Championship's best defender. Is that what we needed? No. Can you expect Jose to have faith in him if he didn't want him in the first place? You can't. And as well, with Roden, because of the Europa League games not being able to play in them, it has hampered him being able to show everybody what he can do, basically, because he hasn't really had the chance. And then we have one more here from Mr. Shepherd. He says, is Tanganga and Roden as good as we think they are? Or is it a question of perception by the fans frustrated at a crappy defence? Look, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. One thing I will say is that looking at what we have seen from Tanganga, he looks very capable of being able to hold his own. He was thrown in against Liverpool. Looking at what we see of Roden, he can as well. I think it's just a matter of, with Roden, of just not being able to have the game time to showcase his responsibility. Because at the end of the day, with Roden, when we were top of the league, you can't just expect Mourinho just to throw Roden in just because. So you can't change it then. Then, we went through that run, but he also has to give the likes of Sanchez a chance before Roden. Sanchez has been here longer. He costs a lot more money. And then it's a case of the Europa League games, he just hasn't been able to play. So I think maybe you might see more Roden next year. I just think he's been unlucky this year. But Crackers, I get everything. Oh, sorry, before we get into the board thing, I just want to get your score predictions off everybody. So, Crackers, what's your score prediction for tomorrow?
I think we will end up winning that tomorrow, 2 or 3. I'm going to go brave and be 1-3. We'll win that.
Happy days. I like the positivity, my man. Matty?
Well, Richard has stolen my score prediction, but I'm going to stick with it. I think a 3-1 win for Spurs. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. I think one of Orsic or Petkovic will nick a goal, but comfortable through to the last round. I'd say 3-1.
Love it. And Stelios?
I think we're going to draw 1-1 and we'll go through.
Like to bring the mood down. God.
Look, do you know what? I don't take
sorry.
draws from anybody. I don't take Tottenham lot, so I want a winning score prediction off you.
Well, if we win 2-1.
2-1. I'm gonna go 4-0. I think we will hit them early. I think their ties done, and I think they're gonna know it as well. Along with everything that's gone on around the manager, you've seen a similar situation with Sheffield United. They sacked their manager, a lot of controversy around it. They got slapped at the weekend. So I'm hoping that the exact same thing happens tomorrow night. But Crackers, like, I can get the way we've run the club in terms of wage structure and that up until fairly recently. But surely there comes a point where we have to kind of break that and create a new wage structure to get the very best in, and start getting over the line, start winning these trophies. Like, you know, because it's all well and good doing that to get you to a certain point, but surely there comes a point where you have to decide whether you want to roll with the big boys or whether you just want to, you know, be in and around and hopefully, you know, crack top 4 every season. Where does that come into it, where you have to break it and start going for success?
Well, I was led to believe that Tottenham, actually, the players, earn very, very good money because a lot of it is on performance bonus,
Incentives,
goal bonuses. So they may be on a smaller weekly wage, if you like a like the basic. But they top that up with very, very handsome rewards. I mean, making the final of the League Cup would have probably netted them a good bonus. So I don't believe they actually earn far off of what some of these other clubs actually the players are earning as well. So I mean, the trouble is COVID's come along and I think it's absolutely wiped the floor with what the club's plans were, the money being generated. I mean, there was talk of those first couple of games of the new lane where they was taking nearly £1 million before and during and after the game on the concessions there with food and drink. It's just phenomenal money, absolutely phenomenal. But of course, nobody there now, so that sort of scuppered that. But then everybody else is in the same boat. Everyone's in the same boat financially with no fans in stadiums. So I don't know. I don't think the players really earn far off of what maybe players at Man City do. They just play it in a very, very different way. So who knows? It depends. If everybody's back into stadiums from next season, you can bet your life that Tottenham's going to be doing very well because, I mean, you know, unless you're a teetotal or not a drinker, who's not going to the game and throwing a few pints down their neck now that you can actually get out and enjoy yourself? You know, I think everybody's rainy day money is gonna start going into pub tills and entertainment tills. So I think there's a potential that should everything go to plan for the club to make some good money. Even things like concerts and that they're going to be putting on. People are going to be falling over themselves to hire the stadium to put concerts on now. So the potential is there for big money to roll back in. So, but, you know, I don't see many of the players struggling or worrying about next week's gas bill or lecky bill dropping through the door. But you know,
no red letters.
No, exactly. So, but I really don't think they're that far off on wages to anybody else, to be honest. Just in a different way.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's an interesting insight. So thank you so much for sharing that, Crackers. But we have I know what that means, for fuck's sake, ref, basically. But he says profitable every year, yet still doesn't spend and compete with his compete. He's a billionaire. And then you have Joe Lewis. Paul Gregory here says Joe Lewis is worth a lot of money, but most of it is tied up in property and other investments. He isn't going to just throw 50 million of his own money on transfers that may not work.
Well, he can't anyway, can he? Because of financial fair play as well. You can't just throw 50, 60, 100 million anymore. I know that there's ways and means around that, but he's not. I think as well, maybe Enoch's plan was to dress the shop window and get the new stadium, get the training ground and everything, and then look to maybe somebody to come in to take us over, and they could sail off into the sunset with their big money for the sale. But of course, world events have come along, and the club's just not worth what it was now. So they're probably just going to sit tight until such times as the markets recover, and then look from there. So I feel a little bit sorry for Enoch in some respects, in that they came in and bought the club 20 years ago, but then like these huge great players, much bigger than them, came in and blew them out of the water. You know, I mean, some of the club owners make them look like paupers, to be honest. But don't get me wrong, there's mistakes that they've made and players that they've missed out on penny pinching. But you know, the game changed drastically from even them coming in and their level of money. So it'll be 100%. Interesting times.
Yeah, it is. Look, for me, I do think Joe Lewis should put in some money, especially since the struggles we're in, especially if they want to try and fund the Mourinho thing. I do think they should be putting some money in. They are multi-billion. They are billionaires. You know, they do get a hell of a lot of money from the fan base. But look, it's a tough one to weigh up. It is a tough one to weigh up. It's a hard one. I just want to read the super chat. Then I'm going to pass it off to Matty. And then on to you, Stel, because I know you have a lot to say, and I want to give you time to be able to get it out there as well. Will's THFC rants Will Stewart. He wants to buy me a pint for Paddy's Day. Big up, Will. Really appreciate it. He says Lamella to start, break some legs, onto the next round. Come on, you Spurs. Look, on that, I actually do think Lamella should start. I do think we do need his mentality for this game. Look, I'm not happy with what he done on Twitter, coming out saying, you know, we're ready for this, we're ready to fight. Matty, what exactly did his Twitter say again?
It's basically saying like it's every game. You know, every game is a chance to redeem yourself and a chance for revenge, and you always have a rematch or something.
Look, he's coming out on Twitter talking about revenge. The time to do it is when you're in the moment. Don't come out with stuff on Twitter with words. Show me in actions. Action speaks louder than words. But the fact that he has tweeted something like that maybe does show that he is up front and he wants to redeem his red card against Arsenal. And look, maybe he might feel that he cost us the result against Arsenal, to be honest with you, timing and sending off. But big up, Will Stewart. Really do appreciate it. Everyone else, get your super chats in, get your questions in for Mr. Crackers, Matt Hayes and Stelios. We have an esteemed panel here tonight. Take full advantage of it. But Matty, everything I was saying and Crackers was saying, do you want to have your say on it?
Yeah, look, I think I fully agree with what Richard was saying in terms of, I think Daniel Levy had maybe planned to spend more money under the Jose Mourinho time at Spurs, because I don't think Jose would have accepted to come to the club unless there was a promise of some money. And look, I know he had been saying throughout the 11 months between being sacked by United and joining Spurs, he'd reinvented himself as a man, he'd become a new manager, he'd this, that, all this lovely-dovely crap. I don't believe half of that. He has his principles and his philosophies and everything that he's built from the first day he walked in as manager at Porto to the last day when he walked out those doors at Carrington, Manchester United. A man who's been who he has been for so long doesn't change that quickly. He probably did reevaluate his what he was as a manager and all that. And with the team that he did bring in with him, the likes of João Sacramento, Ricardo Formazinho, it's very different to the Rui Farias he had with him in the past. You know, Sacramento, he's still young, but even what he was doing at Lille, it was attacking football. He almost became known for that in France. So I do think there was a different aspect in that regard. But 11 months sitting in his villa in Portugal doesn't change who he is as a man manager, and it doesn't change his ability to get the best out of players that he has at a football club. He's going to need to buy his own players in order to do that. So I do honestly believe Levy and Joe Lewis and Enoch, whoever it was, whoever holds onto those purse strings, had decided to spend that money for Jose Mourinho. But nobody can spend money now. You look at Real Madrid last summer, for the first time in 60 years, not buying a player in a summer transfer window. That doesn't happen for nothing. Barcelona were trying to get Memphis Depay and could not pay €5 million for him. That is how crazy things got last year. And look, there were, of course, teams who someone managed to get around that. Chelsea, probably thankfully to their thanks to their transfer ban, had a bit more in their wallet. They Leeds, of course, spent well. Aston Villa did as well. But different teams are affected differently. And a lot of Spurs is the people going in that gate every week, especially given how much we invested in that stadium. So Spurs were hit hugely in a financial way by that by the pandemic. And you can't blame Levy for that. You can't blame Jose Mourinho for that. But what we can blame them for is in the past, their failings. And even one or two deals maybe during this time that they probably should have gotten over the line. You look at, it was probably the summer before last, the last one with Pochettino. We had a deal agreed with Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes, his agent, came to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to watch a game. We had that deal done. And at the last minute, Daniel Levy went, we're actually going to change the structure of that deal. And instead of paying it all up front, we're going to give you 50 up front, then 10 afterwards. And Lisbon said, no, we want 60 up front or nothing at all. And we missed out on him. And that has been the trademark of ENIC's time at Spurs. They sent Steve Hitchen to Milan to sort out a deal for Milan Skriniar. That's the most they've ever invested themselves in a transfer, and they still couldn't get it done. And I saw a comment on my live stream a while ago, which summed it up for me. It's not Steve Hitch in, it's Steve Hitch out, which I think goes to show the kind of feelings the fan base have about him. And his feelings on the transfer window are known as well. He hates the January window, which doesn't bode well for us. But no matter how far Spurs go, no matter how successful we become, transfers are always going to be a debate that will be there with the club. You know, we could go and we could win 3 Premier Leagues in a row and lose out in the 4th one, and people are saying, oh, we should have strengthened our squad in the summer. No matter what happens, that debate is always going to be there. In the same way, there's always going to be someone who wants the manager to go. There's always going to be someone who thinks this player isn't good enough. I see Premier Hotspur TV there making a point about Todd Klein, who was, of course, brought in as the chief commercial officer, I think, for the football club to try and secure some naming rights for the stadium. That could be insanely lucrative for Spurs. And as Richard was pointing out, once the stadium's open back up with concerts, with games, with people come to the shop at the stadium to visit it, the money could be flowing left, right, and centre. But I would have the concern that would be the same for most teams, and maybe then the market, which has been deflated quite a bit, could go the complete opposite way, and we could be back looking at Coutinho going to Barca for 130 million. We could be looking at those sort of figures again. So it's a very difficult market. It's a very difficult financial, economic situation that the world finds itself in, but especially such an unstable and strange financial market that you see in football. It's anybody's guess what's going to happen. But the one thing is for sure, if Spurs want to be successful, ENIC have to spend money.
100%. I fully agree with you. And big up Simon for that comment. Really appreciate it, man. Everyone check out Premier Hotspur TV. It's a great channel. And quickly, Matt, just before we go over to Stelios, Jack Norfield says, do you think Jose is the same manager without Rui Faria, his assistant?
No, but I'd say that's a good thing. I never liked Rui Faria.
No, there you are, Jack. So Stelios, I know you have a lot to say, so take it away.
Can I firstly say, I've got a WhatsApp group on the side that I'm just looking at, and when Matty said Steve Hitch out, the WhatsApp group just exploded in laughter. So well done. I'm looking at it now, like, well done, Matty. That was a great line. Look, if I get out of control on this, just stop me, okay? I come at this with from a level-headed thought process. This isn't just your Levy out, ENIC out. Although for me, I don't want them running the club. My reasons are slightly different, okay? At the end of the day, football has changed. When ENIC took over, it was just at the beginning of when football changed. It went from being a football club to a true corporate business type structure where money talks. And ENIC had to adapt to that changing environment, because that's where we're at now. You've got Levy coming out saying things like money doesn't guarantee you, the amount you spend doesn't guarantee trophies. And you've got Pep countering saying you need the best players in order to win trophies, and that costs money. So who am I going to listen to, Pep Guardiola or Levy? Pep's won everything. Levy's clinging onto a Worthington Cup we won in 2008. So I think Matty's absolutely right. ENIC do need to put their hands into their pockets if they want this club to be successful on the pitch. But for me, the biggest failure of ENIC and Daniel Levy isn't actually the investment itself, because the wage bill has gone up. The wage bill has gone up over the years. Harry Kane's on 200, 250k, Gareth Bale's on 200, Tanga and Ndombele's on. We pay good money, right? It's not the wage bill. The problem at Tottenham Hotspur is the whole process of identifying a player, scouting the player, recruiting the player. It's a shambles at Tottenham. We put one we pull one rabbit out the hat once in a while, a Heung-min Son, a Yang Vertonghen, but then we complement that with a Ben Davis, a Sissoko, an Aurier. You know, how can you have wonderful players like that and say, oh, by the way, can you pass the ball to him who under pressure will make a mistake? It doesn't work like that. So when you run a business, doesn't matter what business, football, supermarket, car dealership, you've got 5 key departments: sales and marketing, operations, customer service, beg your pardon, product development. Daniel Levy, for all the departments of the business, has done fantastic. If Amazon, Mercedes, Nike bought Tottenham tomorrow, I want Daniel Levy to run the business. Yes. I want him to stay. The footballing side, the operations, which includes recruitment, he's a failure. Any which way you look at it. He's been the longest serving chairman with the least amount of trophies won. That is his legacy in terms of the footballing side. The business, keep him there, but hands off. Yes. Don't touch the football. And it's not about a football director, by the way. We've had Baldini, we've had Frank Carnison, we've had people come in. It doesn't work. We need a completely separate way of running the systems and processes that Levy and Enoch put in place for recruiting players. I look at players like Fofana, 19 million, centre-back at Leicester. Fantastic. I look at, have you seen the centre-back on loan at Fulham? What a player.
Yeah, Anderson.
What a player. So the players are out there. You just got to have the right scouts, the right head of recruitment, and you've got to have Levy saying, I'm not going to meddle and make the final decisions. I'm not going to let agents, and by the way, I'm telling you this as a fact, I've got friends in the club in significant positions, not just people that do the ticket office. They have told me their biggest frustration is that Levy listens to agents too much. So just look, Daniel, you're a fantastic businessman. You're not a football man. Step to the side and let football people, like a David Dean that Arsenal used to have, someone of that caliber, you run the football club, the team, the recruitment, the players. Until that is resolved, nothing changes at Tottenham. Even if you give us 300 million, we will piss it up the wall. And that, whatever you say, I don't care what fan you are, what podcast, what Facebook you are, that is the sole responsibility of the chairman and the owners.
No,
exactly what I said last show, wasn't it? But keep Daniel on the till, let him run the business.
Absolutely,
and what we needed. And we should have gone and got David Dean when he left Arsenal, because his football knowledge is incredible, absolutely incredible. And he is that link between the football knowledge and the board knowledge. And we need whoever the David Dean of today is to bring them in. But I make you right, Stelios. Daniel Levy running the business side of that club, absolutely first class, brilliant. But stay away from the pitch, just stay away from the football.
And do you know what frustrates me?
We had the David Dean today. We had Paul Mitchell. He's
a scout. He's a scout. He's not a football man in that sense. He's a scout. The biggest frustration I have right now with Tottenham is that we as fans, I think we are the best fans out of the top 6 clubs. And I tell you, out of the big top 6, and I tell you why. Win, lose or draw, we turn up. We pack out the old White Hart Lane, the new Tottenham Stadium, Wembley Stadium, away grounds, European. We sell it out. We're not like Arsenal, Man United, a bit of a downturn. We're not turning up. We're throwing our toys out the pram. The only club out of the top 6 that stays loyal through thick and thin is Liverpool and Tottenham. We have backed this club and tolerated everything they've thrown at us. We've stayed loyal. We're such fantastic fans. I'm not being biased. Just have a look at the past 20 years. What we've part with, and we still turn up. We still pay for merchandise, season tickets, beers, the lot. Not once has the owner turned around and said, you know what? Without these fans, we're nothing. Daniel, here's 200 million. Just make them happy just for one season. Let's try and do it. That's the bit that winds me up with Joe Lewis, because we as fans of Tottenham deserve so much better for the loyalty we have shown through what's possibly the darkest period in terms of trophy drought in the history of the club.
There's an interesting comment just come across the screen now of David Pleat. Get David Pleat back in. Now, you can think what you like of David Pleat as a person, some of the things he may have done as a manager, but I'll tell you for a fact from people that I know from like the ex-players and of Spurs that David Pleat knows football and footballers like you would not believe.
Yeah,
and
he
I
loves
think he
Tottenham.
would be,
And he loves Tottenham.
yeah, and I think he would be a fantastic
It's a good
asset
shout. It's a good shout.
on the football side of things to advise the board on who they should be looking at, where they should be going, avoiding, etc. So I think Pleat's a great shout, to be honest.
That's a good shout.
Well, let's bring in Matty here. I know Matty had something he wanted to say.
Yeah, there's two things I want to say and stuff Stelios said there. First of all, fully agree with everything you said. On the point of Spurs fans being loyal, the top 5 attendances ever at Premier League games, all Spurs at Wembley. All the top 5 are Spurs at Wembley.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable.
It's ridiculous. It was one of the worst seasons we had, probably the worst season we had under Pochettino. People laughing at us saying we couldn't pack out Wembley. Whenever we didn't pack out that top stand, it's because it wasn't open. Aside from that, it was full. The top 5 attendances
stopped it, wasn't it? And I believe one of them was actually against Burnley at home on a real, it was blowing a hoolie that day as well. It was awful weather. I actually think it might have been on telly as well. And the next thing you know, like they were talking about it being a record attendance. It's like, there you go.
Fans view.
Yeah, exactly.
And just on the point Silas made about transfers as well in terms of Fofana and Joachim Andersen as well. I'm not going to say I disagree. I have a slight, I suppose that is a disagreement with Spurs fans who say we want to go out and get the best players in the world. We want to get the Paulo Dybala. We want to get the Milan Skriniars, and anything less than that isn't good enough. I wish we could. And there's not one Spurs fan that will sit here and say that is not the case. But at the end of the day, as much as it might hurt to admit, let's look at you, Jules Koundé at Sevilla. If he has to decide between Spurs or a proper top European team, he's not going to pick Spurs. Ruben Diaz last summer, he had a choice between Spurs and City. He's not going to come to us. We want Nikola Milenkovic from Fiorentina, but Man United want him too. Let's be honest, who's he going to pick? It's not a case for Spurs at the moment are not the type of club that can make that jump and be the ones to go out and get the best players in Europe. I was actually on a Villa podcast earlier today ahead of the game on Sunday, and the host of it was a really, really good podcast. He said, is Jose Mourinho the man that can attract these players to your club? And I started agreeing that he is. And then as I was talking, I kind of realized that, yes, Jose is a man who can attract players to the club. He like if you want to go into negotiations with the player and you say, oh, Jose Mourinho wants you here, they'll listen. They will listen and they will go into negotiations with that club. But at the end of the day, once those negotiations have started and all that, do those players then realize that maybe Jose is the reason I'm not going to go to this club? And people are throwing around the word dinosaur, which I don't disagree with, but football passes people out. And the best example I can use is Arsene Wenger at Arsenal. He came into Arsenal in, what was it, 1996, was it? Or it was mid-90s, whatever it was. And people said, he's the next big thing in football. He's 10 years ahead of football. He's the best manager in the Premier League. And yes, that was absolutely true. He was so successful in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the reason for that was he was 10 years ahead of football. But he stagnated. He did not change his ways. He stuck his philosophies, his principles, and everything he put in place that first day at Arsenal. And then all of a sudden, when he sacked 20 years later, he's 10 years behind. And that's why Arsenal fans, the kind of new breed of Arsenal fans, hate him. Because all they ever saw was this failing manager who simply was not good enough for the club. And I fear that Jose may be becoming that type of person. And look, I'm not Jose out. I do say give him time. I agree with you, Stelios, as well. If he is going to be sacked, don't do it now. Do it in the summer after we have that chance at the Carabao Cup and Europa League. But these big players just right now are not going to pick Spurs. And again, it's tough to accept. It's tough to deal with. But I don't want to be putting myself on YouTube every single day saying we have to buy Dybala because it's not going to happen. Yeah. We need to start being more realistic with our transfer targets.
Well, that's why we need a quality recruitment team in place that doesn't have Daniel Levy involved in that process. Like I mentioned, the centre-back at Leicester was 19 million. That's not a lot of money nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's who we need to go for.
And every Spurs fan will be happy. And listen, I don't care if we sign a player tomorrow called Bobby Dazzler. I mean, who's Bobby Dazzler? I've never heard of him. But if he's actually a Bobby Dazzler on the pitch, I don't care whether he's 5 million, 10 million, he's delivering. But the players that we do recruit, for every brilliant player, we complement on the field of play a player that just hurts us. And you think, how? How have we signed him? It beggars belief. And then you look at clubs like Leicester and their recruitment, you think we're clearly failing in that process. There's something in that process for 20 years that is not working. And do you know what? Maybe Crackers is right. Maybe David Pleat is the kind of guy we need. Let him run that show. And Daniel, please, hands off. I don't know, you know.
just a couple of things there, lad. I have a couple of super chats. We have Tim Man 007. He says, Stelios, well said, 100% correct. And there's a good few underneath the comments as well, agreeing with you. But I have to get to another super chat here from THFC Rants, Will Stewart. He said, what gets me hit is not just that we miss top talent. Don't even go out and get cheap young talent like Reina, Alfonso Davies, McKennie, etc. You know, and that's another great point. That is a fair point, Will. Like, you know, when you look at players that have come through our academies recently compared to players that are coming through our other academies, are we going out there and getting the best young prospects and getting them signed up? No. On what Matty Hayes was saying about Wenger, one thing I will say about Wenger is when David Dean left, it kind of did fall apart at Arsenal. So I do think David Dean had a massive part to do with Wenger being successful in the first place. And when he left, it fell apart at Arsenal. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, I was also listening to a podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts about ex-players speaking, managers, everything else, from all walks of all different leagues throughout the English system and abroad and stuff like that. And I think it was Ian Holloway saying it. And he was saying, look, the way football has gone, it's gone that big. You can no longer get away with being a Sir Alex Ferguson, managing every possible thing about the club. You do need money men now in club. But what he was saying is that them money men are now making footballing decisions which they should not be doing. They don't know enough about the game to be making them decisions. And what he was saying is that, like, I need to be left to manage the team, but what I do need is someone that I feel I can work with and I can trust to go out and scout these players and bring players to me, which Tottenham don't have. You can't sit there and tell me Jose Mourinho is pumped to have Steve Hitch in there. You know what I mean, running the football side of things. What you do need is I know you said Paul Mitchell is a scout, but ultimately what you need running the football side of things is like, especially when it comes to transfers, is someone like Paul Mitchell. When we had Paul Mitchell, Real Madrid and everybody wanted him. Do you know what I mean? He couldn't work with Levy and the restraints.
He should be part of the team. He should be part of the team.
Yes. He should have a big... I believe that, you know, what should happen is that a manager should, like, say Mourinho teamed up with... what's that guy they're talking about now? That guy from
Luis Campos, yeah.
Luis Campos. So if Mourinho really likes him and he gets on with him and they have that working relationship, bring him in. And when it comes to final decisions on transfers, let him talk to Mourinho and then put forward. And if not, go for the second best scenario, but not fourth, fifth best scenario, because ultimately that's why we're seeing the decline in league position in everything else. Do you know what I mean, lads?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, no, 100%. I have one more super chat and then I have one more question I want to put to you, and then I'm going to let you go off and go about your evening because I know it's getting late. But we have THFC. Oh, no, that's the same one. Sorry. Where is it? It's further down here. It's Tin Man 007. Again, look, Marcelo's not here, so I'm sorry about the entrance. But as an example, we have gone through Kyle Walker to Trippier to Aurier and now Doherty. Notice the poor recruitment. 100%. Look, that's something I spoke on before. The money we got for Kyle Walker, why not just invest it back in and get the same caliber of player that you know can come in and deliver that performance and put him in there rather than going through... Look, Trippier was already at the club, but, like, you know, ultimately he came in. But Aurier and Doherty, they were brought in after we sold Kyle Walker, and ultimately, are they good enough? No, but that's because, you know, look, okay, we spent a bit on Aurier, but, you know, it was clear at PSG he wasn't good enough. That's why they were getting rid of him. Do you know what I mean? If anyone watched PSG at the time, anytime he played, he was making them same brain-dead mistakes, costing them games. So, you know, the recruitment, I agree with Stelios, I agree with you, Matt, and I agree with Crackers as well, that, look, it's not how much you spend, it's how you spend it, and that's been the biggest problem at Tottenham. But look, that brings me on to my next question, lads, is where do we go from here? Like, we're stuck with a manager that is causing so much divide amongst the fan base, which we've never seen. I've never seen the likes of before, to be honest with you. And look, I play my part in it. I'm staunch Josie in, but I give my reasons why I'm Josie in, and I think they're very valid. You know, look, and then we're also burdened with the amount of debt we have. The question is if we don't get the name right sold, do we have the money to go and spend? But then you're left in a position, if you don't and you go a project, you're sacking Jose Mourinho, another manager, which you could ultimately be using that money to invest in the first team squad. So, Crackers, where do we go?
Wow, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Best question of the year, isn't it, Crackers?
Oh, yes, yeah. For me, Jose isn't a fit for Tottenham Hotspur. It's simple as that. I don't want him to go, but long term, I don't think he's a fit. I don't think it even matters what I think. I think he's divided the fan base so much that once the fans come back, I think it will almost become intolerable. There are people out there that are just not having Jose at all. No matter what he does, they don't want him. I think it's the same as when we had George Graham and when we had Terry Neal. There's some managers whose DNA just does not fit in with Tottenham Hotspur for me. So I can't. And let's be straight. It always ends in tears with Jose. He's never anywhere long term. There's never that great long dynasty. Probably Chelsea is the club that you would most sort of associate with him having a bit of longevity as such. But it always ends up in tears and it's never long term. Personally, if you gave me a magic wand, I would go out and I would bring in. I would think I would go with Scott Parker. Personally, I like the way Scott has Fulham playing. I think they're pulling up. When we played them, I thought they played terrific football, absolutely terrific against us. And I think if you gave Scott Parker better players to play his type of football, I think he would be a success. But I would clearly communicate to fans that it's a project of 5-6 years with Scott, and that we may have to go through a bit of a painful rebuild to get somewhere. And I would give him the youngsters, bring those through alongside established players. And if we have to take a couple of steps back to go forward, then so be it. That, for me, that's what I would do. Trouble is, football now, everything has to be now, instant.
Yeah.
Everything does. I think that's even just a societal thing, you know. Somebody wants a car, I'm going to go and get that on finance and I'm getting that right now. You don't save up like 6 months wages and everything. It's an instant society. And I think football reflects that. But if I had the magic wand and the dream world, I like Scott Parker. I like the cut of his jib. And I think I would have him in, possibly with Ledley alongside of him as well, because I hear good things about Ledley and his coaching and the way he speaks with players as well. So I'd probably go young and build. That's where I'd go with it.
Very interesting, Crackers. I call him Scotty Starstruck because we bet them 1-0 the last day. So I call him Scotty Starstruck with the amount of talent we have. I'm going to pass it on then to Matty and then over to Stelios. But first, I just want to read THFC Rance Will Stewart, and then I have a super chat from Bob Spur as well. So, look, whoever wants to take this one can. It says, the young North American talent coming out of the MLS youth academies is cheap and are making waves in Europe, but being Northern England, why? And, of course, in the previous super chat, he did bring up the names like Reina, McKennie. You know, you can even talk about Pulisic that ended up at Chelsea, stuff like that. If anyone knows anything on the scouting system to do with American players, Stelios, Matt, Crackers, feel free to take this one.
Well, you'd think the club would actually be across the MLS players, wouldn't you? Because the club seems to have such a huge tie-in with the States at the moment, with the NFL and chasing the American fan base and the dollar. So I can't believe that they haven't got some sort of scouting system in amongst the MLS teams and watching these kids come through. I don't know. Perhaps they just look at the style of football and they just don't think that they're actually going to be able to cut the mustard at that level.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. But great point. I do agree with the MLS or the ties with the American football and stuff. Surely they are across the MLS. Surely you'd think they are. You know, they even had Robbie Keane out there. Robbie Keane's an ex-Spurs player. You could chat to him and see what the story is, what's going on out there. You know what I mean? But big up Will Stewart. Great super chat, by the way. Coming to the day to you. And we have Bob Spur TV. He says, Jose and players must improve to the end of the season. Look, it's a hard one for me because the thing is with Jose, I do genuinely think he is trying all he can with this squad. I do believe that we're fortunate to have someone like Jose this season with what's gone on to be able to steer and navigate through this difficult season. I really do believe that. We've relied on his knowledge, his experience and everything else to get through this season. But I find it hard to blame Jose when these same players were the same core group of players under Pochettino who bottled big games. And you're including Kane, Son, Lloris, Alderweireld, Sissoko, Davies, Dyer, Sanchez. You know, the list goes on. Lamela, more. There's more there. Now, you'd argue that Kane, Son, Alderweireld, Lloris, you could put them to a different side. But the rest of the others, I call them the losers. They have to go. They don't have the mentality to play these big games and get us over the line. It's that simple. So we have to get the recruitment spot on. But Bob Spur, I see your point. But look, ultimately, a manager's only bought in to guide and get the best out of the team, which he thinks he can. And he is paid to do it. But ultimately, these players are bloody millionaires. You know what I mean? They should be able to get themselves up for a game. So look, there's two sides to it. It's a hard one. But Bob Spur, great super chat. But Matty, I'll pass it to you and then back over to Stelios.
Look, it's such a difficult conversation to have. There's so many different opinions, and every opinion has validity, and every opinion has that kind of air of, well, let's be a bit realistic here. And as people who aren't within the club, as people who aren't within the game, it's going to be hard for us to find that key point or that key change that needs to be made. Now, I think bringing in someone like Luis Campos, if we are talking about where the Spurs go from here, someone like Luis Campos will be absolutely fantastic. And look, we look at Luis Campos and the time he spent at Monaco, and some of the players that he unearthed there. You're looking at Fabinho, Benjamin Mendy, Bernardo Silva, Kylian Mbappe. He has an eye for talent. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. But first of all, you have to get the talent in there. You have to get players in that youth academy, the players who can make that step up to the first team. And talk about this relationship between Luis Campos and Jose Mourinho. That's all well and good. But are the same core staff sort of... that's what I'm trying to think of, like the structure is the same things in place in Spurs as he had in Monaco and as he has in Lille. It's about that team. It's not just one man who can make these changes. And it's the same with Jose Mourinho.
But if you're bringing him in, Matty, though, surely you would ask him to, because look, it's clear today that we don't have that system, or we don't have any sort of system really. So surely, if you're bringing him in, it's in with view to set up that for you. Yeah, but for a long-term basis.
That doesn't always work out, though. Like, look at Jose, and like Jose himself isn't going to change his club. It's about the team he has behind him. It's about the team he has on the pitch. It's about the team in the upstairs in the club. But it's so difficult to get that right. If it was easy to get that right, there'd be 20 teams challenging for the Premier League title this season. It's so difficult. True. Everything has to go your way in order for something like that to happen. And it comes back to the transfers and things like that. That comment a while ago about the right backs, which is a worrying decline to see in that position. And people often make the statement when I give out about Matt Doherty, which we know was a lox after watching him in international breaks as well. It's painful.
Yes.
And people say, but when Matt Doherty signed for Spurs, you said that's a great signing. You said you were delighted to have him. You said 50 million was a bargain. I did, but it's not my job to know if that's true or not. I just give my opinion. There are people at that club who are being paid and who are spending 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, finding out who the best player to bring in a right back at the club is. So if I'm wrong, oh well, I was wrong. But if they're wrong, that's their job. That's a big oversight on their part in order for them to make a mistake like that. And look, again, it does come down to the fact that it's difficult to put these things together. It's not just a case of waving your magic wand and there you have a team that will win a Premier League title. It's difficult to put that together. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this board or this scouting network or whoever it is deserve to lose their jobs for not getting it done. But it's a case of how far away we are from getting that done. Like you mentioned there, 4, maybe 5 players who are part of that team that could potentially go on and be successful for Spurs. But the rest of them aren't going to do that. Winks, Davis, Doherty, Dyer, Sanchez, Lucas, Bergwijn, they're not going to win trophies at Spurs. And we've gone backwards from where we were. Like, remember 2016-17, we had 11 players on that pitch. We know exactly who those 11 were going to be. We knew what we were going to get from them. And 9 times out of 10, we went out and we won the game on the football pitch. Spurs are so far away from that right now. And that is the biggest problem that we have. And where do we go from here? I don't know. But again, it's not my job to know. It's Daniel Levy's job to know. And does he? That's the big question.
Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant put, Matt. Fully agree with you about the point that, look, all us fans can do is give our opinion. You don't live and die by it the way that the people in the club should know. Look, they have data analysis. Look, they have everyone involved around the decision of making a player, from data to injury records to everything. So surely they should be able to make an educated guess, on whether he's going to work out at the club or not. And also, why would you bring in someone that's played right wing back for a right back spot? It doesn't make sense. Surely you bring in the right back.
Yeah, look, that could come back to Jose, his long-term vision at Spurs, which, look at that, let's say a whole another debate. But, in terms of getting Sessegnon and Hoffenheim playing in that position, maybe he does see Spurs as a 5-at-the-back team in the future. But I had someone on my podcast last week who made the fantastic point that Wolves have reverted to a 4th-back this season. That's why they got rid of Doherty, because they wanted to play at 4th-back and they could see he couldn't play there. I think they really, really did Spurs over in that deal. And I said it from the day they let Doherty go, or the day they brought in Nelson Semedo. I said they've done us over here. For only 7 million more, they brought in a starting right back for Barcelona, who, look, hasn't had the best of seasons at Wolves, but nobody at Wolves has had a good season. There's just too many oversights with this recruitment team or scouting network, whatever it is in that club that is dealing with these transfers. It's a big concern that we don't know who that is, but they're just not good enough at what they do.
No, look, they're getting away with murder. But we have a super chat here from Deck W. For the night, $5 Canadian, big up, Deck. I'll enjoy that point for Paddy's Day. Liverpool fans are fully behind their manager, regardless of their current form. Only Spurs fans want their manager out. Shame and disgrace.
That's not fair.
I agree with you.
That's not fair.
Sweeping generalisation, is there? I mean, I know Liverpool fans that are questioning Klopp now, and I know Spurs fans that are questioning Jose, and I know Liverpool fans are utterly behind Klopp, and I know Spurs fans are utterly behind Jose. So every club has their ins and outs and people that want this one in or this one out. So it's not, you can't tie everybody with the same brush. I mean, even the point I made with Jose going, I don't want him to go now, but possibly as a next move after Jose, consider trying to build a dynasty with a young manager and young players. And as I say, go forward. But I'm not saying I don't want Jose in the dugout tomorrow night and him gone.
Yeah.
Same with Enoch. It's like, it's okay shouting Enoch out. Well, who's coming in? You have to have a buyer for somebody to go, and be careful what you wish for with owners coming in as well, because we could end up with somebody worse. So, you have to be measured and you have to think these things through, really.
What I will say, Deck W is look, this goes on at every club, even Chelsea with Lampard. Yeah, people that remember Lampard from his playing days wanted him to stay. Yeah, people that wanted him out. It happens with every club. But what I will say about Liverpool fans is they do tend to stick by their manager a lot more than what other Premier League teams do, aka Arsenal, teams like that, and Tottenham as well. We stick by our manager a lot more than most other Premier League teams.
Jurgen Klopp has won the Champions League and the Premier League. Of course the fans are going to get behind him. He's given them the Holy Grail. Why would you not back Klopp? He's given you everything you wanted. It's crazy.
Which leads into the point you was making earlier, Stelios, that we've been given crumbs and yet still turning up every week. I mean, it's easy to go every week to Liverpool when you're putting pots on the table. It's turning up every week, and even further than that, it's like if you're turning up every week at Leyton Orient or Doncaster and you ain't winning anything ever, but you're still turning up every week. So the further you go down the chain, the more impressive it is if you've got a regular solid fan base turning out. Following Spurs is quite easy, really.
There's no better than the Spurs fan base.
Put it like that.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Stelios, I'll give the same question to you. Look, about where do we go in the summer? Like, the thing is, if you're not going to back Mourinho, why bring him in? But if you do keep Mourinho, clearly you're not going to have the money to give him. So what do we do?
Well, the first thing you do is wait to the end of the season and see what happens. Because if we do win the Carabao Cup and we do win the Europa, or if we just win the Europa, that is Champions League football. And it's a trophy in the cabinet. And you can bet COVID rules, no COVID rules, outside White Hart Lane, if we win that Europa Cup, is going to be absolutely mental. The high street will be packed. There'll be flares. There'll be singing. There'll be drink. There'll lot. It'll be like we've won the World Cup. So that vibe alone keeps Jose at the club, and it buys Levy more time in his position as the chairman. So let's judge it at the end of the season. If we don't, and we're talking about a manager change, then for me, it doesn't matter who you bring in, because as long as we've got we've spoke about it already, the same recruitment process is in place. It doesn't matter who you bring in. It'll be the same problem because it's been the same problem for 30 years. But if I had to pick a manager, and it's specifically for a project, I would look at what successful projects have happened in the past. I think Poch was a successful project. We just fell short. So the thing I think Poch didn't have that previous successful projects had was a manager that's won things before and they were at the upward curve of their journey. An example, Alex Ferguson, he won everything in Scotland and he won a European trophy with Aberdeen. So he was a man that had proven he could win, who was in his early 40s, went to Man U. They were patient with him as well. For 3 years, his job was on the line, don't forget. And he turned Man U into the club they are today. Arsene Wenger, he'd won a trophy, I think, in France. He'd won trophies in Japan with Grand Passate. He then went to Arsenal, and look what happened there. So these are managers that were young, on the upward curve. So if I'm looking for someone, I personally wouldn't pick Scott Parker. I can see why Crackers does want him. Yeah. I like Scott P as well. But I want someone that's got some winning mentality and has proven it. The kind of manager I would probably look at...
You have that now, Jose Mourinho.
He's not on the upward curve, though, is he? So I would probably look at somebody, believe it or not, Steven Gerrard. He's just won the league at Rangers. Have you watched Rangers play football this year?
No, I have. Because look, I'll be honest with you, as an Irish boy, I do have an interest in Celtic, so I have kept a keen eye on it, and it does hurt me. But look, I'm
not saying he's the guy, but what I'm saying is, if you're looking for someone young for a long-term project that you're going to tell the fans, as Cracker said, listen, we might go through a dip, we might go through some tough periods. Find someone who's young but who's won something. When I hear fans saying, "Oh, we want Nagelsmann," Nagelsmann just got destroyed by a Liverpool team in freefall.
Yeah,
Nagelsmann hasn't won anything. He's another manager with good kind of pedigree, a good reputation. I want someone like a young Fergie, a young Wenger.
Maybe Brendan Rodgers by Brian Ireland here says Brendan Rodgers, one of the Tottenham away lads. Another lad that got knocked out of Europe, just like Nagelsmann.
I think with Brendan Rodgers, he has had a crack at the big time, and when he was at Liverpool, and that's the kind of pressure that Spurs will be under if we want to win a league title, and it didn't happen. So I don't think he is the right answer. But what I would say is, when we talk about fans want everything now, and that's just how society is. The difference is we've waited 20 years and got nothing. And you look at Arsenal, they've still won FA Cups during that period. Portsmouth have won the FA Cup. Wigan have won the FA Cup. Leicester have won a league. United have won trophies. City have won everything. Chelsea have won trophies. We're the only club in that top 6-7 who haven't won anything. So I don't think we want it all now.
Leicester are a prime example of getting recruitment right. Prime example of getting recruitment right.
Of course they are. We've waited 20 years. So to have another manager come in and say, oh, 5-year project. What, another 5 years? I don't know, man. I think if Jose Mourinho doesn't win that Europa Cup, I don't know where we go at all, because I don't think the fans will tolerate Jose. I agree with Crackers. I don't know if you were at the Norwich FA Cup game when we lost on penalties and Dyer stormed into the stands. That atmosphere was horrible. That was horrible. So I do believe the fans will turn, but I also think the fans will begin to say, right, we've had enough of the owner. We've had enough of the chairman. I think that will happen too. So I don't know where we go. I don't want us to start a project unless Jose wins trophies first. But if it does turn toxic, then that situation will be forced upon us. And I'm not confident. I'm not confident with Tottenham if we have to start again another 5 years.
Daniel Levy is a common denominator, isn't he? Right through this 20 years, he's just the common denominator. And Enoch, because we've had the foreign manager.
Crackers, he can only work under the restraints Enoch put him under.
But he also owns 25% of Enoch.
Yeah. I mean, he's huge influence, even with Enoch being like the overall owners. I mean, it's his stewardship as such. But you know, just every manager that we've tried, we've had foreign disciplinarians, we've had foreign nice guys who put their arm around the player. We've had the same with domestic. You know, we've had sort of nice guys in there, and we've had real disciplinarians. We've just had every type, young, old, foreign, domestic, but every time it's just not quite worked out. And I think it is just a different array of deck chairs on the Titanic.
Guys, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Crackers, can I, and Matty and David, can I ask you all a question? All right.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember if Crackers was on it. It was the Last Word on Spurs one. And they had a financial expert that come in about football. And he said it's very difficult for Tottenham Hotspur to compete with the Man United and Liverpool because of the global fan base they've got and the income they get from that. Spurs can't compete with that. And when I heard him say that and the discussion happened, there's one thing that wasn't mentioned that began to bother me. And it was this. And I want to hear what you guys think about this. Harry Redknapp, when we were going for a league title, he said, get me Tevez, and I think it was Chris Samba in defence. I can't remember the exact players. And we went and got, famously bought Louis Saha and Ryan Nelson.
Oh, Gary Cahill who was in defence. Gary Cahill and Tevez he wanted. Gary
Cahill, okay. So when we got to that moment where we can really win the league, the board didn't back the manager. Pochettino, same thing happened. We had that amazing side. We just left White Hart Lane for the rebuild of the stadium. If we bought one or two top players, we were going to be mustard. We were going to be dynamite. And we went on this 2 years of not wanting to buy players. Some people say, Poch didn't want them. I don't think Poch wanted the players that were offered to him. Okay. So we've had chances where the board could have made a statement and said, let's do it, and gone on and won the trophies. So the argument is this. They didn't do it because of money. But how can you compete with Man United and Liverpool if you don't make that investment when the moment comes? Because if you do win those trophies, your global fan base does grow. And that's how you catch Liverpool and United and get access to that income and wealth, by winning trophies first. But you need to make investment in the key moments like Redknapp and Poch had to win those trophies. And then like Chelsea have got a big global fan base now. They were nothing 20 years ago, nothing. Yeah. But they've got that global fan base because they win trophies. Same as City, So what do you think about that? Why don't the board invest knowing that if they get that trophy, they're going to have more money in the long run anyway? I don't get it.
Look, Stelios, this is the frustration because, they've had times in January, and January the perfect time to get, like you were saying, get them one or two players in and really help the squad push over the line. They've had the league run in. They had the Champions League final to, this whole crack of, should we have to have played Kane? They had 5 years to get that situation sorted out. 5 years to have someone on the bench to be able to come in. Do you know what I mean? So I fully agree with you. Look, I wish I was in and around the club, and I wish I had the answers. I really did, because it's something that really, really frustrates me. It's just, and it even comes back to the question I asked earlier, like, when do you take that leap? Like, the thing is, they've had opportunity after opportunity to take that leap and bring us to success. And like you said, the success brings a global fan base. But for some reason, they're
success brings the money. Success brings the money in equality. Yes. So invest in the money and get the money. I don't understand where their logic is on this.
It brings sponsorship and everything else with it. 100%, I agree with you. Look, Crackers, we'll let you take that and then have a couple of super chats to get through, and then we'll end it off, lads, because we've been here an hour and a half. It's absolutely flowing by.
It has, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think Stelios is absolutely right. But then Spurs have always done that. They've always got to that point of being one or two players just short and just not pushing on. I remember it's sort of 84 and 87, we went close, but we never brought that couple of players in that would have made the difference. And I don't know, is it that they don't want to take the risk, or they just couldn't quite get deals done? But I think you're right. If you make that final push, those players pay for themselves anyway by bringing that in. And then, it was a bit like with Ronaldo when he went to Italy. That they said that he just paid for himself in commercial revenue that he brings in, just what he brings into the club, and and sales of shirts and merchandise and everything. It doesn't cost a penny, apparently. There's obviously a little bit of wives' tales maybe in that, but he certainly covers a hell of a lot of what of what he's costing. A bit like with Son. I mean, Sonny must be the money that's spent on Spurs merchandising in South Korea
Yeah.
and the profile that he sort of brings
Pays
to
the
the
wages,
club
doesn't it?
and everything. Exactly. So yeah, it just, you know, get the right players in that help the team, but then also push you on commercially, and it just pays for itself. It just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I don't know. I think you'd probably just have to sit there, wouldn't you, with Daniel, Donna, et al., and just say to him, why is this not
I
happening?
couldn't handle sitting in this. I couldn't handle sitting in the room, Crackers. I'd lose it. You need to go in. You're calmer.
Yeah. But look, lads, I have a couple of super chats there, and then I'm going to get Matty Hayes back on, let him have his say on that, and then we'll plug everything we need to plug, and we'll end it off there and let everyone go and have a few cans for Paddy's night. And we have Jordan Stevens with the big super chat. Big up, Jordan. I really do appreciate it, buddy. Of course, channel member as well with that beautiful badge beside his name. If you want that beautiful badge beside your name, grab a membership. The link is in the description below the video. Jordan says, had we have won things and been successful under Poch, Spurs may be more receptive to young manager, a long-term project. Problem is we haven't won anything and patience will soon run thin. Look, Jordan, and this is what you're seeing now. Patience between the Spurs fan base, it is running thin. It's running thin because, you know, look, people are getting fed up. Like when you see our Leicester coming from League One to win the Premier League based on recruitment, smart recruitment. What does that tell you? You know what I mean? Like the thing is, we've stuck with this project for 20 years now. And it's just come to a point where I think Spurs fans just want that trophy to get the hoodoo off the back. Tin Man 007, until Enoch and Levy sell up, it doesn't matter who the manager is. The same cycle again as this board, do not back the managers on who they want. Yeah, no, look, Tin Man, again, it's hard, look, because you could argue you might get someone that'll buy you. And basically, look, you've seen it time and time again, run clubs into the ground. People say Mike Ashley, but the reason why I struggle to say Mike Ashley is because when he did first come into Newcastle, he put money into that club. Let's be fair with some of the players he brought in. And it didn't work out, so he's gone the complete other way. But look, I don't know if I want Enoch and Levy out. I don't want Enoch and Levy out. What I want is just maybe for them to come up with a new plan, a new idea. Like me personally, I actually think they're sitting there waiting till we win a trophy before they do that because they're an investment firm. So if we come in trophies and you know, I think then maybe they might start opening the purse strings. But again, it's not the way to run this club. THFC rants Will Stewart, big up Will. He says, by Gio Reyna and your fan base in the US will triple. Do you know how many Pulisic, Dortmund and Chelsea shirts you see here? Oh, I have no doubt. One thing I will say is you Americans are loyal to your players and you will follow them around to their clubs. So big up, Will. I really do appreciate it, and 100% I agree with you. The American fan base will go absolutely crazy for Tottenham. I fully agree with you. And again, look, you know, Levy would absolutely be rubbing his hands at the money coming in from the American fan base, let's be honest. But Matty, let's have your answer on Stelios' question. And then straight after that, if you want to plug your social media, and we'll walk our way back around to Stelios, Cracknell, and then back to myself, and we'll end it off.
Did I miss the question when I jumped out?
Give it to him, Stelios.
Yeah,
sorry.
To summarise, there was a podcast a while back that said they had a financial expert on the show saying it's very difficult for Tottenham to compete with Liverpool and Man United because they've got a global fan base, and the money they generate from that global fan base, Spurs, they can't compete with that because they don't have that kind of global fan base. But then what my response to that is, we've had chances where if we invested in 2 or 3 quality players, once under Harry Redknapp and then under Pochettino, we could have won those big trophies. That then increases the global fan base, that then brings in the money from that new fan base. So in order to be like Liverpool, Man United, you've got to win the trophies to have that global income. But to get to that stage, you've got to make that investment. So why don't Enoch make that investment, which in the long run will make them the more money, and it will pay for the players' wages, and we become even more self-sufficient and make profit and win trophies? Why haven't they done that? It doesn't make sense to me.
It's a vicious circle, what you just explained there. It's a very vicious circle. But Tottenham, look, we've never been, obviously we're not, we've never been that global club, but there's more way than one to get
because
there.
We don't win the trophies.
Yeah, look, winning the trophies will be the easiest way to get there. Spurs in America, I would say, are probably the biggest football club in America. There was some Google Insight report there a couple of years ago. I think it was in 2017. The most searched, most Googled sporting term in America in 2017 was Tottenham. It was nothing to do with the NFL. It was nothing to do with the NHL, NBA, whatever it is. The most searched sporting term was Tottenham. Spurs have undoubtedly picked into that American market. You're looking at, of course, the NFL deal with the stadium, the whole thing there in terms of even getting Alex Morgan in on loan for 6 months. Yeah. They are targeting that market. But of course, there is a much bigger market out there. And look, David, I know the Spurs stories you did with Abby Summers a while ago, which for anyone who hasn't seen it, incredible video. Make sure to go and check that out. She working with Sony India was saying that since Jose Mourinho has come in, the market for Spurs in India and across the rest of Asia as well has really grown. So it seems though in some weird way, Daniel Levy is, look, in the typical Daniel Levy fashion, it's going about trying to get us to be into that global fan base without investing as much money as he needs. He's trying to do it the easy way. And that's not going to work. Look, I think there is a possibility there to win trophies without having that global fan base, but it's not going to be a consistent thing, if that makes sense. Look at Atletico Madrid, won that Spanish league title, was back in 2013, 2014. They made their way to a few Champions League finals. They're potentially winning the league again this season, but that's not sustainable because this summer and next summer, Real Madrid and Barcelona are going to invest hundreds of millions and they're going to get there. So the question is, are Spurs ever going to become that team who could be like Ferguson's Man United, who could be like, Liverpool were in the 70s and 80s? Are we ever going to be that dominant force within English or European football? I personally don't think we ever will be, partly because of the restraints that are on board. I have to believe, but I also have to be realistic. It's partly because of the restraints that our board are putting on us ourselves, but it's also because there's a lot more competitive teams around there right now. Like United, throughout all that time, they'd, around the turn of the century, they'd, Arsenal kind of competing there for a bit. In the mid 2010s, they'd Chelsea kind of competing there a bit. And towards the end, it was Man City who ultimately did take over when Fergie left. But there was never a consistent force there that were competing with that. I don't think Spurs are ever going to have the luxury of that. And
Matty, I'm happy not being that dominant force, though. I just want to see us, if we win one Premier League in every 10 years, 2 FA Cups in every 10 years, a Champions League once in every 15 years, I'm happy with that as a Spurs fan. But we don't even do that. And you wonder why the board... How can you compete with those clubs you talk about, those dominant clubs, if you don't make that investment to win those trophies? Young kids today, they wear Man City. I've seen young kids in London with Man City tops. They never wear Man City tops in London. Why? Because that's the go-to team. And that's the future fan base that Man City now have. We will never do that unless we win these trophies.
But what I'm saying is, in terms of getting that global fan base, the one thing that those teams have in common, in terms of the ones who are the biggest in the world, United's, Liverpool's, Madrid's, Barcelona's, they had their period of domination within their country. They had that time when, if you look at Spanish football, that's a fair point. It's only Real Madrid or it's only Barcelona. Now look, Man City haven't had that, but what they have had is, and PSG would probably be the similar thing, where they've had that incredible, huge investment of money, which it comes across once every 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is. But under ENIC, under Daniel Levy, and in the current political football world, I don't think Spurs are going to have the luxury of being able to grow that global fan base, because we're not going to have that domination. We're not going to have that money invested in the club. So it's about trying to, maybe Daniel Levy is right in going about it a different way in terms of like slowly trying to pick into the different markets. But I think the footballing world has changed more in the last 20 years than it probably did in its first 120 years in so many different ways, in the financial side of things, and the way the game is played, and the global fan base, as we say, like across different teams, even on the pitch with VAR and all that stuff. It has changed so much, and I don't think any team is going to come up through the ranks now and have the luxury of being that one team, the one team there is. And that's the struggle for Spurs, and not just for Spurs, for any team out there that does want to become the next United or the next Liverpool. Maybe we've just missed our chance to do that.
Well, look, lads. Look, I think it's been an absolute great talk. But look, we've been going an hour and 45 now, which is madness. Time has flown by. Thank you so much, lads. I want to grab Will Stewart's super chat here, and then we'll work with Matty and work our way back around. You plug what you need to plug. So THS FC rants Will Stewart. Big up, Will. I think he's going to start his own channel. So, guys, everyone get over there, check him out, show him the same love everyone's showing me out here. Spurs are big here because of the follow-on of Clint Dempsey. Other clubs are growing here now in his absence. Yeah, no, look, I can fully get what you're saying. You have Chelsea with Pulisic now. You have Juventus with McKennie. You know what I mean? So, look, I get what you're saying. Basically, we do need some sort of Spurs player with American ties to be able to to be able to kind of get that fan base back again. But I get what you're saying. Big up, Will. Really do appreciate it. And we have Brian Ireland saying fantastic stuff, lads. But Matty, what do you want to plug?
Well, look, I could plug stuff here all night if I'm being perfectly honest. But look. Watch along for the Dinamo Zagreb and Tottenham game tomorrow. We'll have yours truly, David Harris, and Marcelo as well over on my channel, Matt Hayes Tottenham blog, kicking off at 4:40. As we said, while you're there, you might as well hit that subscribe button for any Tottenham content you could want, including the Tottenham Fan Voice podcast, live watch lines, as I said, previews, reviews. You can get me on Twitter at Matt Hayes THFC or in any podcast platform. The Tottenham Fan Voice podcast, of course, newly released on that since we signed the Sports Social Podcast Network. But while you're here, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that join button as well to join the Harris Army, and or the two other wonderful guests as well. Make sure to follow them as well.
Thank you so much, Matty. Stelios?
Yeah, I'm part of Tottenham Away with Brian Ireland, Brian Daigle and Cheyenne. Tottenham Away meaning that we know that we've got fans that don't live in the UK, hence the Tottenham Away faithful, and we try and get a guest from abroad every week on our podcast, and we do weekly content around the matches, the cup draws, post-match reactions, pre-match reviews. Jump on Tottenham Away, subscribe, like. If you want to be a guest on our show as well, please get in touch at hello@tottenhamaway.com by email or just DM us through social media.
100%. And I likewise with Matty and Stelios, Tottenham Away, and Matt Hayes Tottenham blogs, lads. Get over there, smash the site, smash the subscribe, smash the like button. Great content coming from both channels, and it's great to be able to bring the two here today. And Mr. Cracknell, what do you want to say before we sign off? And what have you anything you would like to plug as well?
Yeah, I'm still on MSN, Chat Messenger, Mumsnet, Reddit, Friends Reunited. I'm on there as well. MySpace. I'm thinking of opening a MySpace page
still on
as
Bebo?
well. Yeah, Bebo, yeah, I'll get on there.
Napster.
I'm up to date with all the Napster, yeah, Galaxy Sounds, all of those. So, I have Mr. Cracknell across all the social medias and MrCracknell.com. I've got myself that one of them their websites. So I'll give you half an idea of what I get up to. But if you do run a overseas fan club, one of the cities and that, and you're interested in getting one of the legends to come and do an appearance, then get in touch. And then once all this COVID nonsense is out of the way, we can start getting some shows back on and get you some legends to your event, and very reasonable prices, 10% discount. Sign up now.
Now, look, you can't go much more. You can't go wrong with that. A discount and everything. Everyone loves a discount. Everyone loves a bargain. But look, lads, thank you so much to the panel for giving up their time. I really, really do appreciate it. I know it's late at night. It's Paddy's night as well. So big up yourselves. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Big up to the Harris Army as well, and everyone else that tuned in. If you're not a subscriber, make sure you smash that subscribe. Make sure you smash a like on the stream. Of course, channel memberships, make sure you grab one. I want to say a big thank you to the super chatters, Tim Man 007, Will Stewart, Dan W. We have Emily Dunn. We have Jordo Stevens. I don't think I missed anybody. Big thank you to everyone. And look, enjoy the game tomorrow. We're going to win. In Jose we trust. Come on, you Spurs.